The conference room at Anderson and Sons Manufacturing felt like a tomb. My father sat at the head of the table, looking smug as he prepared to hand over the family business, or what was left of it, to his disappointment of a daughter. "Well, Emma," he said, shuffling the papers with exaggerated ceremony, "as discussed, your sister Catherine will inherit the house, the vacation properties and the investment portfolio. You get." He paused for dramatic effect, Anderson and Sons. My mother sat beside him, lips pursed in that familiar expression of disapproval she'd perfected over the years. Catherine, my successful sister, was there too, barely concealing her smirk. "A failing company for the failing daughter," Catherine muttered, not quite under her breath. "Seems fitting." I maintained my calm, professional demeanor, the same one I'd cultivated over the past 5 years as the anonymous CEO of Phoenix Industries, Anderson and Sons' biggest competitor and the industry's rising star. "Just sign here." Dad pushed the papers toward me. "Though I don't know why you'd want a company that's losing millions. Should have gone to business school like your sister instead of finding yourself after college." What they didn't know was that my 3 years of finding myself had actually been spent learning the manufacturing industry from the ground up, working under different names at various companies, preparing to build something of my own. "The handover meeting with Phoenix Industries is in 30 minutes, my father continued. "They're buying our biggest contracts. It's the only way to keep the company afloat, even if it means dealing with that mysterious CEO who's been eating our market share." I checked my watch. "Actually, Phoenix's CEO should be here any minute." "You haven't met them either?" Catherine asked, suddenly interested. "Nobody seems to know who runs Phoenix. They're so secretive." Right on cue, my phone buzzed. A text from Marcus, my COO. "Team's in position. Ready when you are, boss." "Before we proceed," I said, standing up, "I should mention that I've already reviewed these contracts with my lawyer." "Your lawyer?" Mom scoffed. "Since when do you have a lawyer?" The conference room door opened and my executive team filed in, all 5 of them, dressed impeccably in designer suits. Marcus led the group, carrying a sleek briefcase bearing the Phoenix Industries logo. "Mrs. Anderson," Marcus said smoothly, "I believe you're sitting in my CEO's chair." The confusion on my family's faces was priceless. Mom actually stood up, automatically deferring to what she assumed was Phoenix's leadership team. "I don't understand," my father frowned. "We're supposed to meet Phoenix's CEO." "You are," I said, taking the seat my mother had vacated. "Phoenix Industries, founded 5 years ago by Emma Chin. That's my married name, by the way. Another detail you never bothered to ask about." The signing pen dropped from my father's hand. The silence in the conference room was deafening. Catherine's smirk had vanished, replaced by open-mouthed shock. My mother had sunk back into her chair, clutching her designer handbag like a lifeline. "This is some kind of joke," my father finally managed, his face reddening. "Phoenix Industries is a $500 million company. You can't." "Actually," Marcus interjected, opening his briefcase, "Phoenix Industries' current valuation is $780 million after our last funding round. And yes, Emma owns 67% of the shares." He distributed folders containing Phoenix's financial statements, market analysis and acquisition proposals. My family stared at the documents as if they were written in alien hieroglyphics. "While you were busy writing me off as a failure," I said calmly, "I was building the company that's been systematically outperforming Anderson and Sons in every market sector." Catherine grabbed one of the folders, her hands shaking slightly as she flipped through the pages. "The Morrison contract, the Johnson deal, the Asian expansion, that was all you." "Every single one," I confirmed. "Remember last Christmas when you mocked me for missing family dinner because of work commitments? I was in Singapore closing a $50 million deal." My mother found her voice, though it trembled. But you live in that tiny apartment. You drive a used car?" "Because unlike some people, I don't measure success by appearances," I replied. "I invest in my company, my employees, and our growth." Marcus pulled out another set of documents. "The real reason for this meeting. These are our terms for acquiring Anderson and Sons Manufacturing." My father's face went from red to purple. "Acquiring? We're just here to sell some contracts." "Dad," I leaned forward, "Anderson and Sons is hemorrhaging money. Your market share has dropped 60% in 5 years. The only contracts keeping you afloat are the ones I deliberately left alone, until now. You did this on purpose? Catherine whispered. You destroyed our family's company? No, I corrected her. I built a better company. One that values innovation, treats employees fairly, and doesn't rely on an outdated reputation. Anderson and Sons destroyed itself by refusing to adapt. I nodded to Marcus, who pulled up our presentation on the conference room screen. Phoenix Industries is prepared to acquire Anderson and Sons for $30 million, significantly more than its current market value. All employees will be retained with improved benefits. The Anderson name will become a subsidiary brand. 30 million? My father scoffed, but I could see the calculation happening behind his eyes. He knew it was more than he could get anywhere else. The alternative, I continued, is watching Anderson and Sons continue its decline while Phoenix expands into your remaining market sectors. Your choice. My phone buzzed, a text from David, my husband. How's it going? Need backup. I smiled slightly, typing back. All under control. See you at dinner. Catherine was still processing the revelation. All those times you came to family events in department store clothes, listening to us brag about our achievements. I was gathering market intelligence, I finished for her. Amazing what people will say around someone they think is a failure. My mother suddenly straightened, her social conditioning kicking in. Well, darling, we always knew you had potential. And now you're so successful. Don't, I cut her off. Don't pretend you believed in me all along. We all know that's not true. The next few moments would change everything. I pulled out one final folder, the thickest one, and placed it on the table. This contains every email, every memo, and every conversation where you disparaged my abilities or questioned my worth. Our PR team has prepared 2 press releases about this acquisition. Version A is a simple business announcement. Version B includes the story of how the Anderson family treated their daughter, complete with documentation. My father's face drained of color. You wouldn't dare. Try me, I replied calmly. I've spent 5 years being underestimated by this family. I think the business world would find it fascinating to learn how the mighty Andersons never saw their biggest competitor hiding in plain sight. Marcus distributed copies of both press releases. Catherine read them, her legal training kicking in. This would destroy our family's reputation. The same reputation you valued more than your own daughter? I asked. The one that made you think it was acceptable to mock me at every family gathering? My mother reached for her usual tactic, guilt. We're your family, Emma. Despite everything. Family. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Let me tell you about family. David, my husband, whom none of you bothered to meet, believed in me when I had nothing but an idea. My executive team, who you just met, they're more family to me than you've been in the past decade. I opened my laptop, displaying Phoenix's organizational chart. See these names? Sarah in R&D, Mike in operations, Tom in sales. They're all former Anderson and Sons employees who left because you refused to recognize their talent. They're now executives at Phoenix with equity stakes in the company. You poached our employees? My father growled. No, Dad. I gave opportunities to people you undervalued, just like you undervalued me. Catherine, ever the pragmatist, was reviewing the acquisition terms. These are actually quite generous, she admitted reluctantly. Of course they are, I said. Despite everything, I'm not cruel. I'm offering fair value for the company, job security for the employees, and a chance for the Anderson name to survive as part of something successful. My phone buzzed again, this time with an alert from our trading department. Anderson and Sons stock had started dropping as rumors of the acquisition spread. You have 30 minutes to decide, I announced, standing up. My team will wait here. I have a lunch meeting with the governor about Phoenix's new tech training initiative. The governor? My mother gasped. Since when do you? Since I became one of the state's largest employers, I cut her off. Amazing what building a $780 million company will do for your social connections. As I gathered my things, Catherine spoke up. The inheritance papers. You never signed them. I don't need them, I replied. Keep Anderson and Sons. Keep the houses and the investments. I built something better. I walked to the door but paused before leaving. Oh, and Mom? That tiny apartment you mocked? It's actually the penthouse of the building I own. The used car is a custom Tesla with a waiting list of 2 years. I just never felt the need to show off. The next few hours were a blur of activity. My parents, realizing they had no choice, signed the acquisition papers. Catherine, the star lawyer, couldn't find a single loophole to exploit. By evening, Phoenix Industries' acquisition of Anderson and Sons was official. I chose press release A, the simple business announcement. Not out of kindness but because success was revenge enough. That night at home with David, I finally allowed myself to process everything. "How does it feel?" he asked, pouring us both a glass of champagne. "Honestly, not as satisfying as I thought it would be," I admitted. "I spent years planning this moment, but now you realize you outgrew their approval a long time ago," he finished. "Exactly." I smiled, looking out over the city from our penthouse. Phoenix is expanding into Europe next month. We're launching our tech education foundation. We're changing lives. That means more than any revenge. My phone buzzed one last time, a text from Catherine. "I never knew. I'm sorry." I left it unanswered. Some bridges once burned aren't worth rebuilding. The next morning I walked into Phoenix's headquarters, greeted by the team that had become my real family. On every screen, news headlines announced the acquisition. Analysts praised the strategic brilliance of Phoenix Industries' mysterious CEO. Marcus met me at my office. "The Anderson and Sons transition team is ready. What's our first move?" I smiled, pulling up our strategic plan. "Let's show them how a failing daughter runs a company. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't in the big reveal or the dramatic takedown. It's in building something so successful that those who doubted you become nothing more than a footnote in your story."